Today, we are continuing the conversation on your nervous system and relationships, and we are going to talk about how to calm the fuck down when you are feeling dysregulated. Welcome to the Fierce Authenticity Podcast. I'm your hostess, Sharani M. Batak, and I teach you how to have amazing relationships by doing one simple thing: dismantling supremacy culture's internalized oppression and conditioning. Be sure that you've hit subscribe to the podcast and come on over and join me in my private newsletter community, where I have a collection of specially curated tools to get you started. Simply visit www.sharanimbatak.com/connect to get started. Welcome back to the podcast. I am so excited to have you back with me for another episode, another healing transmission, and another set of skills that you get to learn and implement. Last week, we talked about the role of your nervous system in your relationships and how one nervous system truly does impact all of the other nervous systems around it, in terms of how regulated or dysregulated you are, and if you get caught up or spin out, or if you stay cool, calm, and collected, and even if you get hooked into someone else's dysregulation, or how you can support in deactivating or de-escalating someone else's nervous system activation. So that was last week. Listen to the episode if you haven't already. I shared some hilarious stories about my travels across the country for a recent trip I took. And today I really want to speak about co-regulation. I started speaking about this towards the end of our previous episode, and it felt really important to dedicate an entire episode to what scientists, researchers, neurobiologists, all the good stuff, what they consider or what they call co-regulation. Now, today is going to be a little bit of a science-y episode, and bear with me because I am going to break it down super simply, okay? So, one nervous system has the ability to impact another nervous system because all nervous systems communicate with each other. I'm going to say that again. One nervous system can help regulate or even dysregulate another nervous system because all nervous systems communicate with each other. Some people might know this as quote unquote mirror neurons, which is actually incorrect. It's not a result of our mirror neurons that nervous systems are able to speak with each other and able to regulate or dysregulate together. What is actually happening is there's a network in the brain for social and emotional engagement. And that is the system that gets activated in the presence of another nervous system. And when that network gets activated, that's when, in some ways, a mirroring effect does happen in terms of, okay, see someone dysregulated, get worked up and dysregulated ourselves, right? Let's just use that as an example. And so one could say that it really is a mirroring. If they're dysregulated, you'll get dysregulated. If you're regulated, they'll be regulated. And that is a result of the activation of our social engagement networks in our brain. Now, with that said, there's also this really cool thing that happens where we can literally regulate one nervous system with another nervous system. And this process is called co-regulation. It's that experience you get when you walk into your best friend's place, or when you walk into the spa, or even when you walk into your therapist's office, back when we had offices, but when you walk in there and you just feel like, you literally can let down your guard, like you literally relax, and that big breath helps to release and it helps to relax, and it's just like, it's like a hug for your nervous system. Like, that's how I'm seeing it right now. And so that's what I want to say. So it's like that. Only there's actual physical things that we can do. Now we're going to get a little bit more sciencey here, and we're going to talk about the polyvagal nerve. The polyvagal nerve is the nerve that runs kind of down the center of your body. And I can't recall right now if it's front body, middle body, wherever it is, but it runs down the center of your body. And that nerve is responsible for helping what they call down regulate, or I'll call deescalate an activated nervous system. And so when you're out there all flustered and frazzled and your nervous system is super activated and you're in this fight, flight, go, hustle energy, what needs to happen is you need to activate your polyvagal system, your polyvagal nerve, to calm you the fuck down. That is literally what helps bring you back down from that automatic responding, which isn't really responding, it's reacting, but it is what brings you down from that really highly activated reactive place to a calmer, more regulated space where you can actually make decisions that are going to be good decisions or helpful decisions, where you're not acting frantically and all the things. And one of the ways, the best way, I think, for doing this and activating that part of our nervous system, the polyvagal nerve, to help like calm us the fuck down, is a really great big chest to chest hug with someone, especially someone that you love or you care for or have strong positive feelings towards. And I can't recall, I don't know if this is like an actual stat or if this is just something that people say, but I have heard before that we literally need 8 to 10 hugs a day in order for us to be at our optimal functioning and feeling connected. Again, don't quote me on that because I heard it somewhere else, haven't fact checked it, don't know the source, all those things. But to me, I believe it. So, as some of you know, I am a member of a 12-step program, and there are a lot of hugs at the end of our meetings. And about 3 times a week when I would go to in-person meetings, pre-pandemic, I was getting a bunch of hugs 3 times a week. Of course, I have my husband, I have my dog, and, we live together and all that good stuff, but there's just something different about getting a series of hugs all in a row, being able to ask for those hugs. I mean, it was amazing. And then what ended up happening is, pandemic shut everything down and meetings moved online, which was great. We could stay connected with our program. We could stay connected with our meetings. But then there came a point where I was starting to feel really anxious, agitated, on edge. And one night it hit me that the reason I was feeling that way is because I was no longer getting my 8 to 10 hugs extra, right? Additionally to what I already get from my husband, our dog, all the good stuff. But I was not getting that additional 8 to 10 hugs 3 times a week from my people in the fellowship who love me and I love them and we have positive regards towards each other. I wasn't getting that. And that's when it was like, oh, that's why I'm feeling this way, because I didn't have that extra boost of the oxytocin and everything else that helps to calm us down and to regulate us and help us feel good. And that's when actually we implemented, and by we implemented, I mean I implemented cuddle time at home. By that point, I was also working from home. My husband has worked from home for years, even before the pandemic. And that's when I really started asking for what I need, which was cuddle time. And in the middle of the day, like literally, we would eat lunch and then I would ask for, and I still do this. I'm saying it like I don't do it still. No, I still do this. And I ask him, can we go to our cuddle couch for 10 minutes? And we literally sit in the cuddle couch, which is like this oversized chair. It's like one of those chair and a halves, and both of us fit in along with the dog. And we literally sit in that chair. And it helps me. I feel my body starting to melt. Like I feel the tension. I feel the anxiety. I feel the angst. I feel all of the stuff that gets worked up. I feel it just melting. Because not that we're sitting there chest to chest, but we are sitting there in that close contact. I mean, we give each other a hug and then we sit down in the cuddle couch and I'm cuddled up on his chest. But it's just like so soothing to the body and to the nervous system. And once we started implementing that in my home, I started to notice a really significant difference in the way that I was feeling and the way that I was activated or not activated, activated or regulated within my own nervous system. And now both of us are able to evaluate that. There's even days where he will say to me, like, hey, can we go to the cuddle couch? Especially after he's had some really rough days with work. And so now I'm not the only one asking for cuddles in the cuddle couch to help co-regulate the nervous system and bring us back down from that activation, from the angst. And this also works if you're in a freeze, because that touch and that closeness and those hugs, they also do a similar thing of really letting the system know, like, oh, there's safety here. Oh, it's okay. A lot of what I talk about, though, is to help bring us down from that super hyperactive state, because that's kind of where I have lived for a majority of my life, and where a lot of my clients live is really in that hustle, go, constantly on edge, constantly agitated, constantly just doing, which is a fight or flight response. And so I often tend to focus on that. But coming back to co-regulation, that is one of my most favorite ways of co-regulation. Now, you might say, but Sharani, what about those of us who aren't partnered or who aren't living with others and can't do that? That's not available to us. Well, if you have a fur baby, fur babies are also really excellent at helping to support with our nervous system co-regulation. Because let's get real, for the most part, fur babies are so calm and regulated, and they're just so peaceful and serene for the most part. Now, if you're Benji, who is our doggy, he's got some doggy PTSD, no joke. So it's a little harder with him. He is a rescue, and I don't know what happened to him the first 14 weeks of his life, but he came to us very traumatized, and that is still with him almost 3 years later. But for the most part, most animals, most fur babies are really great companions at helping us. And I still hear you, those of you who are like, yeah, and what about those of us who aren't partnered, don't live with anyone, and don't have fur babies? Well, guess what? You can actually also co-regulate with yourself. And I mean, they don't call it co-regulating at that point, but what you can do, because remember I said this polyvagal nerve runs down the front of your body. And what you can do is place one hand on your heart. And we're not talking about your anatomical heart. We're talking about the center of your chest, the heart chakra in yoga. That's where that would be. So literally the center of your chest. So placing one hand on heart and one hand on belly. And again, it's just like that center of your body right on the belly, and taking several deep breaths and just breathing, just feeling your hand on your heart and feeling your hand on your belly and just pausing into that and breathing really deeply. That is a way that you can simply regulate with yourself and on your own. And it really, really works. I'm going to invite you to try it right now, actually. I'm going to invite you to go ahead and place one hand on your heart center, so the middle of your chest, and one hand on belly. And first of all, really feeling your body, just feeling your soft, supple human body. Feeling your hands as they make contact with your soft, supple human body. And then just breathing into that, a nice big in and out, and keeping your hands in that position and taking in another nice big in and out, and one more for good measure, nice big in and out. And as you're taking those big breaths in and as you're releasing them, feeling the hand on your belly moving up and down with that inhale and that exhale, and then just letting yourself pause and be here and notice what a difference this has made. In less than a minute, you have been able to connect with yourself. You have been able to pause. You have been able to breathe. You've been able to regulate, which breathing is another way we regulate our nervous systems. But when you combine it with that one hand on heart, one hand on belly, it truly amplifies the effects and really helps to settle the system. And now this is something you can do at any time of the day, whether you have your partner or your fur baby or nobody. You can do this at any point in the day. You can even do this in your Zoom meetings, because let's get real, they can't really see beyond your neckline in Zoom meetings. And so you can even do this in Zoom meetings. And, the really cool thing is that even if they do see you doing this on your Zoom meetings or around the conference table at work, it's okay, because what we talked about, when you regulate your nervous system, you support the regulation of the nervous systems around you, because all nervous systems speak to each other. So, with that, I am going to leave you. And actually, I feel like sharing one more image with you before we go. If there's a part of you that's having a hard time with this, I want you to also think of, when a baby cries, where do we put that baby to soothe them? We put that baby right there on our chest, the center of our chest, our heart center, heart to heart. with them. And that typically helps to soothe them and to soothe us if we're feeling frazzled. Not like I have any kids currently, but I have definitely been in the presence of children and have been in the presence of younger ones. And there's something so magical that happens when we connect with that space, the center of our body, up and down the front, between our heart space and our belly, whether that's with another human in that really big hug and cuddle time, whether it's with our fur baby and just being present with them, whether it's with yourself by placing that hand on heart, hand on belly and breathing. And then as a result, that trickles out to every other nervous system around you and that you come into contact with. And so, my friend, that is co-regulation, whether it be with others or whether it be with yourself. And so I invite you to stay present with this, have this technique, have it with you, utilize it as many times as you need. This truly is one of the basics of how to have better relationships with yourself and others, is when we have regulated nervous systems. So take this skill, continue building it, and we will be together again soon. Take really good care. I want to take a moment to honor and acknowledge the amazing support team that helps make this podcast possible for you. Starting with Diego Velazquez, our podcast editor and the talented artist who created our custom music. Ana Olvina, my wonderful assistant who creates all of our beautiful graphics and the transcript of every episode, which you can find over at www.fierceauthenticity.com. Biana Sandich, who writes our amazing show notes and does it so well that I bet you couldn't tell it wasn't me. The talented Jillian at Epoxy Studios, whose photography is our cover art and pretty much every other curated image that you see of me on social media. My husband, who puts up with me when it's 11:30 p.m. on a Sunday night and I'm like, hey babe, I gotta record a podcast episode. Like right now. Is that okay? My higher power, whose divine wisdom flows through me to bring these messages to you. And last but not least, I want to thank you, my listener, so much for listening in. If you'd like to join the podcast support team, some ways you can do so are by rating and reviewing the podcast, sharing it with everyone you know, and, if possible, making a financial contribution through the link in the show notes so that you too can be part of the team elevating this podcast and making it possible to bring to other listeners like you. I'm sending you so much love, and we will be together again soon.